Hello students, welcome back. Today we are going to start on the topic of chapter 3 Plant Kingdom. In the previous lectures we were doing about the plant kingdom and we have divided the plant kingdom into different members. For example, Thallophyta, Bryophyta, Pteridophyta, Gymnosperm and Angiosperms. Right? So in that part we have started with the first one, that was Thallophyta. It means that body is thallus-like. So under the Thallophyta, again there are different classes in which we have covered already about Chlorophyceae, Phaeophyceae and Rhodophyceae. And all these are what? These are the algae which comes under the Thallophyta. Right? So here today we will discuss about the third and the last one, that is Rhodophyceae. Before that we have done Chlorophyceae means green algae and Phaeophyceae means brown algae, and the third one, that is Rhodophyceae, it means red algae. Okay, so the name itself indicates Rhodophyceae. Rhodo relates to what? Something red in color, and the another name of the Rhodophyceae is red algae. And these types of algae are also known as ancient algae. Okay, so these are also known as ancient algae and they are found in various environment. Some of the examples I have written here, like Porphyra, Polysiphonium, Gelidium, Gracilaria. So we will discuss some importance about these types of algae also. As we have done in the previous algae, in that one also these were the important, but here some of the red algae are also important for the human beings. Okay, so let's begin with the first characteristics about the habitat. Whenever we are doing any of the class like Chlorophyceae, Phaeophyceae, so here we were discussing about their characteristics. The first characteristics, that is habitat, where they are mostly found. कहाँ पे ये ज़्यादा पाए जाते हैं? So here, so these red algae mostly found in the marine water. Here we are talking about the general characteristics. Okay, so the mostly the red algae found in the marine water. In marine water also they can be found at the surface of the water as well as in the deep ocean. Okay, so we can say that the red algae can be found in both surface of the water as well as at the greater depth. Right? कहाँ पे हो सकते हैं ये? Surface पे भी हो सकते हैं और deep into the ocean भी ये मिल सकते हैं. On the basis of these, we will discuss that the color of the algae also changes. But mostly we are talking about the red algae. Now, another important thing about the structure. Structure is thallus-like. Why? Because it comes under the Thallophyta. So here the structure or the thallus of the red algae is multicellular. Okay, some exceptions are there which are unicellular, but again we were talking about the general characteristics. So we can say that the most of the red algae are the multicellular and they can have different shape also. अगर हम shape की बात करें, so they can have the different shape. For example, I have written Porphyra. If you will see the structure of Porphyra, it is just like parenchymatous sheet. Okay, so this is a sheet-like structure which is Porphyra. It may present in some different structure. For example, chondrus. Okay, same thing I have written here also, chondrus crispus. If you will see the structure of chondrus, which is type of red algae, these are ribbon shaped. So here we can say that the structure can be of varied form in the Rhodophyceae. Fine. The third one, which is important one, that is cell wall. As we know that we are discussing about the plant kingdom and this is the distinct characteristics of plant, that they are having cell wall. Whether it is a Chlorophyceae, whether it is a Phaeophyceae or it may be Rhodophyceae. In all that cases we are getting cell wall is present. But in each of them what happens? The composition of cell wall is different. Here, if we talk about the red algae, the cell wall is made up of some complex structure. Now, what is that complex structure? That is cellulose. Along with the cellulose, one more important thing, that is pectin. Okay, so this question is for MCQ, that in case of Rhodophyceae, the cell wall is made up of what? It is made up of cellulose as well as pectin. Along with these, some of the polysulfate esters are also present in the cell wall of the red algae. Right? Now, if you will see more characteristics about the cell wall, you can see that some of the red algae secrete and deposit the calcium carbonate. As we have in the corals, so coral is having some hard structure, okay, which is made up of the calcium carbonate. So like that which we have done in the corals, these structures can be seen in the Rhodophyceae. It means that they can secrete or deposit calcium carbonate, and due to this the structure will become hard like a coral and it will appear as a corals. Fine. Now comes to the point pigments. Again, which is very important. Why? We know that the color of any plant responsible for what? Responsible by the pigments. कोई भी plant का color किस पे depend करता है? उसके pigments में, कि whether what type of pigment is present. As we have discussed in the Chlorophyceae, that the most of the pigment found in the Chlorophyceae, it was chlorophyll A. As well as along with this we have done chlorophyll B. Okay, and same we have done in Phaeophyceae, chlorophyll A as well as C. But now in case of Rhodophyceae, the chlorophyll A and D is present. Now the question arises that if the chlorophyll is present, why they are not in green color? See students, what happens? Chlorophyll is present in all types of members as well as Chlorophyceae, Phaeophyceae and Rhodophyceae. But when there will be some another pigment which will be dominant over the chlorophyll, then the color which it will impart, it is due to the dominant pigment. ओके कभी भी जो पिगमेंट हम देखते हैं जो अपियर हो रहा है वो किसकी वजह से हो रहा है? डोमिनेंट पिगमेंट की वजह से. Here the chlorophyll A and D is present, but along with this there is one important, that is R-phycoerythrin pigment is present, and due to this R-phycoerythrin pigment the red algae appears red in color. Red algae red क्यों होते हैं? Due to the presence of R-phycoerythrin. If you will recall some relation, that phycoerythrin, erythrin relates to what? Erythrocytes, and erythrocytes are the another name of RBC, which are red blood cells. So वहाँ से हम क्या कर सकते हैं? नेम को इंडिकेट कर सकते हैं that erythrin is responsible for giving some red color. Okay, so here the chlorophyll is present and the R-phycoerythrin is also present, which is responsible for giving red color to the red algae. Now another important thing, that R-phycocyanin. Okay, two things are present. As we have said, these red algae can be found at the surface of the ocean as well as they can be found in the depth of the ocean. ये क्या हो सकते हैं? Surface dwellers भी हो सकते हैं और deep ocean में भी हमको मिल सकते हैं. So according to this, their color will get changed. Okay, if you will see the algae or the red algae which are present on the surface of the ocean, so you can say that the color is due to R-phycocyanin. जो भी red algae आपको surface पे दिखेगी वो किसकी वजह से दिखेंगी? वो R-phycocyanin की वजह से. And due to this R-phycocyanin, the color of the red algae is blue in color. Okay, so the color can change. कभी कभी क्या हो सकता है? We can confuse with the color, but it's a red algae. And why it is happening? Because we know that on the surface of the ocean, the light is easily come. Okay, light आसानी से क्या हो सकती है? आ सकती है. But into the deep soil, light has to go through the deeper and deeper. And due to this, what happens? the pigment which is there, R-phycoerythrin, can impart red in color. Otherwise, both comes under the red algae, whether they are the surface dwellers or they are present in the deep into the ocean. Okay, and you have to memorize that the surface one having the color blue, which is known as phycocyanin, and in the deep into the ocean, those red algae are red due to the R-phycoerythrin. And amongst all, the R-phycoerythrin is most important. Okay. Now, the stored food. As we are doing different classes, so in all of them we are talking about some storage food. Okay, in Chlorophyceae also, in Phaeophyceae. Now in case of Rhodophyceae, what can be the storage food? Okay, storage food क्या है? The storage food is Floridian starch. It's a type of starch which is present in the Rhodophyceae, and this stored food is known as Floridian starch. What it is? Floridian starch. And this Floridian starch resembles or they are similar to glycogen as well as amylopectin, and both are what? These are type of starch. So glycogen is what? We have done that in case of animals, the stored food material is glycogen. So we can say that the stored food material of the Rhodophyceae is Floridian starch, and it resembles with the glycogen as well as amylopectin. Right? Now about the reproduction. Again, this is the important part for any plant to give rise to a new plant. So reproduction can take place by three methods: vegetative methods, asexual method and sexual method. If you will recall the reproduction methods in all the algae, these are the same. Okay, so here also there will be three types of reproduction, but the only changes takes place in gamete formation or in the spore formation. So here the reproduction can take place through the vegetative. In vegetative reproduction, one of the method is fragmentation. Fragmentation is what? If any part get split or get part divided into different pieces from the parent plant, what happens? All these are able to produce a new plant, or we can say to produce a new red algae. Okay, so fragmentation is what? If any part splits from the parent and all they are able to form a new algae or a new plant. This is the fragmentation. Now another method may be asexual method. As we have done in the previous Chlorophyceae and Phaeophyceae, the asexual reproduction takes place with the help of some spores. And we have done that those spores are zoospores, aplanospores. So these spores can be what? These spores can be motile one. Why motile? Because they are having flagella. Okay, but here in case of Rhodophyceae, if you will see the asexual reproduction, it takes place through the spores. यहाँ पर भी reproduction कैसे होगा? Asexual reproduction spores के through होगा. But the only difference is that those spores are non-motile spores. Right? If I'll ask that what is there in the Rhodophyceae asexual method, you will say that it is a non-motile spores. While in case of other Chlorophyceae and Phaeophyceae, these are the motile spores. Okay. Another method is sexual method. In sexual method, we have done three types: isogamous, anisogamous and oogamous. Now, if we will talk about the sexual method in Rhodophyceae, so here the method is oogamous method. Oogamous method क्या था? In oogamous, what happens? The female gamete is non-motile and it is larger in structure. Okay, while the male gamete, it is smaller in structure. So this is the criteria for the oogamous, that the female part is larger in size and the male gamete is smaller in size. Female gamete is non-motile and the male gamete is motile, but this motility is not due to any flagellum. Okay, so we can say that in case of Rhodophyceae there is no flagella. These are the non-flagellated gametes as well as these are non-flagellated spores, right? Now, if you talk about the sexual reproduction, there may be some post-fertilization. These post-fertilization events are very complex in case of Rhodophyceae. And here we have given some name to their gametes. There is one gamete that is carpogonia, or we can say in singular carpogonium. Carpogonium or carpogonia is what? These are the female sex organ, and the spermatangia or spermatangium, it is singular one. So these are male sex organ. So the male spores will move through the waves and reach up to the stable female part, and there will be fertilization takes place, right? So here we have done about the how reproduction takes place in case of Rhodophyceae. Now, if we are saying that these Rhodophyceae are very important, so what are these importance of these red algae? So there are different importance as we have done in case of Chlorophyceae. Those were also important. With if we will talk about the economic importance, likewise we have done Phaeophyceae. In here again these Rhodophyceae are also important for the humans. How these are important? The first example which I have written, that is Porphyra. Okay, so as I have drawn here, the structure of Porphyra is like a parenchymatous sheet. So this type of Porphyra, or we can say Porphyra, these are edible. You can consume these types of structures, or you can consume these red algae. So it can be used as a food, right? Another important algae is Gelidium and Gracilaria. Now, what is the importance of Gelidium and Gracilaria? The agar-agar can be extracted from these types of red algae, and we know that these agar-agar is important for different purposes. For example, in the processing industries or in case of some factories, for the preparation of jellies, this agar-agar is important. As well as if we will talk about the scientific studies in case of biotechnologies, or for culturing the bacteria, or for different uses, this agar-agar is important. So we can say that as this agar-agar is important for the human beings, and this can be extracted from the Gelidium and Gracilaria. Okay. The third one, that is Chondrus crispus, ribbon shaped red algae. So what is the importance of this Chondrus crispus? The another name of this one is Irish moss. Okay, why इसको Irish moss क्यों कहते हैं? Because during the famine in Irish, what happens? They used this type of red algae as a food. That's why from there the name said Irish moss. Now again, this Irish moss is important for what? Because the carrageenan, okay, this is very important. The carrageenan can be extracted from the Chondrus crispus. And now what is the use of this carrageenan? Have you seen that in case of milkshake? Okay, if you are purchasing the milkshake, what happens? There is a proper mixture of milk as well as chocolate milk. Okay, so there is no such problem. Now if you will see, अगर आप क्या करोगे, चॉकलेट को मिल्क में डिसॉल्व करोगे तो होगा क्या कि चॉकलेट सेटल डाउन हो जाती है. Is it so? But when we are using this carrageenan, this is acting like a hydrocolloid. Due to this action, the we can say the chocolate can be dissolved in the milk very easily, and this cannot be settled down in the processed can. Okay, if you will take the processed can, so this milkshake is, or we can say chocolate shake is very dissolved form. Why it is happening? Due to this carrageenan. So we can use these types of things into our day-to-day life. So we can say that these are economically important for the humans, right? So today we have completed the algae, all three types of algae. What are they? We have done the green algae, we have done brown algae and red algae. Now if we'll talk about the whole algae, we have said that economic importance of the whole algae is that the 50% of the atmospheric CO2 get fixed by these types of algae. इन सभी algae क्या करती हैं, CO2 का फिक्सेशन करती हैं. जितना भी हमारे एटमोसफेयर में ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा 50% atmospheric CO2 get converted with the help of these algae. And along with this, these algae are important because we are consuming or we are using as a edible one, right? So here we have completed Thallophyta. In the next session we will start the another one, that is Bryophyta, right? So that's all for today. Thank you.